use he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Julia Caserta. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Sophia. Steve is a nickname, so if that comes up, that's my name. I also use she, her pronouns.
Today we will be starting off with coming out stories, if comfortable. Julia, you should tell us your story if you want to.
I will do that. My story, that's a fun topic, isn't it? Coming out, something every queer person dreads. Even if you got a good family, you still dread it. It's just a part of it. My coming out was less than ideal. We can say it like that. The first time, I came out at, like, different times for each person officially. So I came out to my mom first, officially. And that was at a really bad time. Because we were driving home. We went to get food. We were driving home. And I turned to her. Steve's my mom. I turned to her. And I was like, Mom, I'm bisexual, by the way. And that was exactly her reaction. Yep. And she just laughed. And after that, after I turned to her, I just went back to the window. I went back, and I was just like, nope, we're going to hide now. And I just didn't say anything for the rest of the car ride. She didn't either. It was me coming out, her laughing, nothing. And it's just silence. And I just wanted to get out of there. And obviously I couldn't, because I can't jump out of a moving car. I mean, I could.
It's not recommended.
I don't think doctors recommend jumping out of a moving car. Don't do that. So awkward. And then my sister, then after I told my mom I was bisexual, she had told my father. And obviously I didn't want that because my plan was to tell her, gauge her reaction, and then from there, build upon what I was going to do. So, like, figure out from her reaction if I should tell my dad, if I should tell my sister, if I should tell my less immediate family. I didn't exactly have that choice because it was kind of my fault because I should have thought about it like, yeah, they're a unit. They're going to talk to each other. They're going to talk about their children. That's their whole thing. They got children together. They got to converse. So, I asked my dad, because I had the feeling that my mom had told him, and I asked my dad, and he was like, oh yeah, your mom told me, but I already knew. How? How did you know? And I don't actually know how he knew. Apparently, a feeling, maybe? I don't know. And I never formally came out to my sister, either. That was more awkward, if possible. So, I had a while before I came out to my mom, officially, I wrote down on a sheet of paper the different sexualities and, like, tried them out. So I wrote down, like, Dad, I'm bisexual, Dad, I'm pansexual, Dad, I'm gay. I didn't really know what I was going to call myself. So I had written that out, and then I put it in my bag, because I was at my dad's, and I had to bring it over back to my mom's. So, my sister, I forgot about the paper, it was in the bag. My sister needed to use my bag for something, and she dumped out the bag on the floor, used it, and then when she came back, she saw the little paper on the floor, she picked it up, unfolded it, I assume read it, walked into my room, and held it up, and said, Jules, do you need to talk about something? And I said no, and then I believe what she said afterwards was, it's okay, I thought I was pansexual too for a while. See, I don't think, I kind of know. I didn't say that. Afterwards, I just kind of pushed her out and just forgot about it. I wasn't going to deal with it. I just left it. That was my coming out to my immediate family. And I have more family to come out to, so let's go into that. Even more exciting and more awkward, because I can always make things more awkward, can't I? That coming out story, I had to come out to my grandmother and grandfather. We went to a dinner with them, me, my dad, my sister, my mom, and my grandmother and grandfather. So my grandmother asked me, how's school been? What are you doing? I went into talking about a little bit about the JSA, and I don't remember exactly how it came up, but I think I looked over to my mom because I had asked her a few days prior about coming out to them. I looked over to my mom, she nodded, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. So I said, I'm attracted to girls and guys, and my grandfather was fairly silent during that, but my grandmother had a few words to say about it. I believe her first reaction was, yeah, I can see an attractive girl walking down the street and think she's attractive. Any woman can. No, not exactly how I'm feeling. I actually am, like, attracted to the girl. So I had to explain that, which was weird, to explain the different kinds of attraction to your grandmother. And afterwards, I think my grandmother looked at me. She'd been talking to my mom, because my mom was trying to explain my sexuality to my grandmother. And she looked over at me, my grandmother, and she said, I don't want you to feel like you're forced into being queer. What? It's like one of the most accepting communities. What do you mean I'm being forced into being queer? I'm being forced into being straight. Just kind of backwards when you think about it. And my mother, I don't remember what led up to her saying this, but she said, Julia is, and I quote, boy crazy. No? Not really, no. Even prior, I was not someone who was, like, romantic in general.
Nor should you be.
Nor should I be, because I was, like, 12, 13, I don't remember. And to say I'm boy crazy when I'm coming out as queer, what? It just baffled me, and I was just silent, and I was like, okay, thanks for coming out for me, Mom. And then we left. So,
Well,
I come from a family of awkward people.
relatable.
Relatable. I know. Hashtag relatable.
Okay. Would you prefer to go, or would you like me to go?
I just want to cover maybe a few, like, tips to learn
avoid my
from that
situation.
experience. Yeah, so I think that timing is a very important thing when you're coming out or in any situation where you're telling someone important news. And so it's good to find a time where the person is in sort of the right mood, if you can, to tell them, and probably in a place where you have somewhere to sort of escape.
Run.
So
Just
maybe
run, don't
not
look
in
back.
a car is
No.
probably better if you're in your house or somewhere where you can leave the room and give them time to think, or leave and have your own space if it's awkward. So I think those are definitely a couple things to learn from that.
Yeah, I also think it would be best, honestly, to just come out all at once.
Yep.
Because, like, what happened is I ended up being outed because I didn't come out all at once. So if I had just sat everyone down in my immediate family, it would have been a lot easier because I wouldn't have to gone through separate awkward experiences, just one big one.
Yeah.
It's always going to be awkward, that's one thing. It's like, no matter what, it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable, even if you have kind of an accepting family. They see you one way, and then you're like, I'm actually this. For anything, it's awkward.
I think that's also something like allies should think about a lot, that someone should never be forced into coming out, and if someone comes out to you, you should always ask them who it's okay to tell, or if it's okay to tell anyone at all, because being outed can be dangerous and certainly awkward and probably puts you in positions you don't want to be in. So definitely, if you're an ally or just anyone, if someone comes out to you as anything at all, just make sure to communicate with them about who they've already told and who you should tell, because that's definitely important.
I agree.
Yeah, and I also think for allies or anyone that is having someone come out to them, know how hard it is to just say it out loud. Like how hard it was for me to say I'm bisexual, even though I'm not bisexual. And it just like the courage that it takes to build up, and then also without it, to have that choice taken away from you. when it's meant to be your choice, who you come out to, where, when, all of that. That's meant to be what your decision, because it's your life and who you want to share it with. And then to have that kind of ripped from you is like a horrible feeling.
It's painful.
Yeah, it's like it's literally like something was ripped out of you when you didn't want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys are saying is like it just really makes a lot of sense. I think it really does kind of really like one of the most important things is where and when you do it.
Yeah.
It's just the matter of like feeling comfortable when you do it and like feeling like you're ready to do it. It's about how you're feeling about the situations and or whatever it may be that you're nervous or unsure about this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump back to stories of coming out
Before
really
you
quick.
do that, can I add one quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when I came out, I did it very suddenly and abruptly, and I didn't think about anybody's feelings but my own, which can be good. Where it's like because you have to think of yourself every once in a while, but it's also not so good because you have to have a healthy balance for it. Like you need to do it in a way that's not just so like abrupt and almost aggressive. Cause it's hard for parents again to hear like that their kid is something that they thought, like you think of your kid as one way, turns out they're not, and you have the future planned out for your kid. So you also like, especially when you come out to parents, you do have to take their feelings into consideration, which is something that I didn't do when I came out abruptly. I was like, this is me, this is who I am. If you don't like it, deal with it. And my family didn't deserve that. They cared about me. They didn't deserve to just have me come out so randomly and abruptly.
I think that's a good point, but it's also it's very good to consider other people's feelings, but it's
also
it's
about you.
very important to remember that coming out is about you, and their feelings, while they are valid, are not something that should interfere with you or your identity or your coming out. Yeah. So don't think too much about what other people think when you're coming out. Although you do have to make sure you're not putting yourself in a dangerous situation anyway. Yeah. But it's good to remember that it's about you and that they shouldn't be able to have any effect on that.
Yeah. You want to go to stories?
If you guys are cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I feel lucky that it went the way it did, because I know there's many much worse situations. And I've only like told like in my immediate family, like face to face, like did it come up? I've told like one person, and then other times they just ask me, and they're like, it was actually before I was gonna come film the first episode of this show that I was in. My grandparents, who I live with right now, they were like, so just like a heads up, are you gonna come out as anything on this show? Like, are you gonna come out as like trans or bisexual or lesbian? And I'm like, no. And then I walked away.
Awkward smile.
And then I came back. And then I was like, hey.
More finger guns.
Yeah, yep. Bring up my awkwardness again.
Sorry.
No, it's my doing. But then I was like, oh, hey, yeah. I'm a little bit gay.
Just a little bit. Just a little gay.
Just wanted to give you a heads up there. Yeah, I lied. And then the other person, I like to talk about what I'm doing, like these shows and GSA and things like that. Like, I love to talk about that stuff. Like, it's my favorite. And then I'm surprised I wasn't asked this sooner. Like, I was somewhat immediate family. I was with that person a few weeks ago, and I was talking about Youth Leadership Day, and I was just we were just talking, and they were like, so don't mind me asking, and they just went on, and like it was really nice to just feel like, because they were okay with it, they were just wondering, and I felt like I kind of hesitated at first, but then I was kind of more okay with it towards the end of the conversation. And then, so that's immediate family, which consists of my grandparents, one parental, and another thing.
Thing?
Yeah. Then there's the other side of my family. I mean, I'll just say it right now. My mom knows. My dad does not know. He lives across the country. He's cool with it. He's a pretty cool cat in terms of those things. So, but he talks. He does. He tells his mother everything. Like, tells his girlfriend a lot of things. Not that I'm not cool with her knowing, but I don't know how she feels about that stuff. And I mean, his mother is also, she's cool with it. But it's her husband, who I'm personally, like, really nervous for the time that comes to have to, or if I feel comfortable telling them, because I know that he will just reject the whole idea. Like, he's not cool with that stuff. Like, I've talked with him, or I'd just be talking to my other family members about it, and he'll just say these rude and unnecessary remarks about it, and like, it's just not okay. Like, so I am a little bit nervous to kind of come out to that side of my family because of him. I know I shouldn't be scared of one, being, but I don't want that to separate me from the rest of my family. I didn't mean to ramble on. I just wanted to put that out there. But anyways, it could be a lot worse, and I'm okay with the situation.
I mean, yeah, things could always be worse, but it doesn't invalidate what's happening to you or other people. Like, even though you're not in an entirely homophobic family, it still sucks. For lack of a better word, it absolutely sucks to be afraid of your family members. That's something that no one should have to go through. Yet it's really common to be afraid of members of your family and be afraid of what they have to say about you. When Oliver said, people shouldn't affect your ability to be yourself, but they still do. People still feel like, family especially, they feel like they have a say in your life. Yeah. When some like your parents, they raised you, they have a say in your life, but like, no one else really does. Like, you get to choose who you surround yourself with, and you get to choose your own life, and you get to choose your identity and how you feel and all of that. Well, you don't get to choose how you feel.
Yeah. It's just, with, like, that side of the family, they're, like, ridiculously conservative, and so it's different. It's way different than, like, thinking about it, like, how it should be. But, and yes, I can surround myself with who I want to. It's just, like, it's when you have these people who you know will not want you for who you are, really, really kind of sucks, because you know that you just can't say anything, because it's also, not that it would affect my safety, but it could affect someone else's safety. Like, if someone was in a similar situation where they just, like, they didn't feel safe coming out, that's a big thing. But, like, that's not what I'm going through. It's just, that's a big thing. And it's just, like, total rejection is a fear of probably everyone that I can think of, like just anyone in general, but especially when you're coming out, it's overwhelming. It's just, anyways, I'll let that one.
And what you said about danger, it might suck. Again, for lack of a better word, it sucks to know that if you come out, you're in danger. That's when you don't come out. No matter, like, you hate to have to keep something inside of you because you, like, when you realize it, it's a fantastic feeling, and you almost want people to know because you can just let it out because you kept it inside of you for so long. But if it's going to put you in a place where you are in danger and your safety is compromised, keep it in. It's horrible.
Until you can get away from it.
Yes, but your safety needs to come first. And
Always.
yeah, always. Like, if you are in danger, don't come out. If you know your family will reject you, kick you out, do worse things. They can do worse things. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Just be that silent kid.
Yeah.
Maybe find someone you can trust and talk to someone.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, just people that, you just surround yourself with the good people that
when you can.
either don't care, like, what your sexuality may be. They're just looking for you. Like, it's you. It's not your sexuality. It's not your, like, it's just your personality. That's all you have to, like, just find those people.
And that's something you see a lot, actually, where people are defined by their sexuality.
Yep.
Like, in media, too, it's like, oh, this character's gay. You happy now? LGBTQ plus community. But then they don't give them any personality whatsoever. It's just, like, oh, they're gay. That's their whole personality.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's more to us. You know, we have personalities and feelings and all that. We're not just gay. There's more.
Yeah, I think that sexuality and gender is definitely like a great way to express yourself, and it's a very important part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it shouldn't affect how you're treated in any way, and
It shouldn't affect how your family feels about you.
yeah, it shouldn't define you. And you can express it and be proud of it, and that's great. But at the same time, it's not so great to be, you know, just like the token trans kid walking down the street like, oh yeah, that's the trans kid or that's the gay kid or whatever it is.
You see that in school too.
Yeah,
and you just become
it's
that
something
kid.
where a lot of like straight cis people think of it as like, you know, we're accepting them or we're like admitting that, oh, we have, you know,
like, oh,
an
they exist.
LGBTQ person in our school community. Isn't that great? But they don't actually go and talk to the people. They don't fully acknowledge that they're people, not just labels and not just, you know, something you can put in, you know, the description of your school website. Oh yeah, we're inclusive of the LGBTQ community.
Just like
You're not
appease the
inclusive
masses.
unless you appreciate the people for everything rather than just the fact that they're part of a certain group, and that goes for everything.
That's a great point. I really think that was.
Yeah, so going back to coming out stories, Oliver?
If you're comfortable.
If
I
totally.
like,
I'm gonna
safe space.
we'll be having hopefully in the near-ish future a trans-specific episode of the show where I have some other trans guests with me.
Hopefully
So,
next month.
Yeah, I think that would be a great time to go into coming out because it's it's very different. Like coming out as trans, it's you know, similar experience, but at the same time, it would be difficult to go into that without talking about, you know, how to be a trans ally and all that. So I think that would be a great thing to talk about on the next show.
Coming out as trans is almost harder than coming out as a sexuality.
Well, it's something that I think if you're like if you come out as, you know, gay, your parents can say, you know, oh, you're not really gay, and that's, you know, that sucks. That really sucks. But at the same time, that, I mean, it might affect how you express yourself, but you can still be gay and be, you know, like, well, if you come out as trans and your family rejects you, you can't make any changes to yourself or your name or anything like that. And so that affects you a lot in terms of, like, self-confidence and dysphoria and all of that, which is also something we'll go into in the next episode. But it's definitely a different experience, not to say it's necessarily worse or that it can't be completely awful to come out as come out with your sexuality, but it's definitely a different thing.
And I think we've talked a lot about the bad parts of coming out, but like what Steve said, we're in a pretty good place. Like, we're lucky to be able to be this way, but there also are some really good aspects for coming out, because it's like, it's freeing. It's just like, you get it off your chest, and it's like, there's this moment before anything happens, and you just set it, this like pause in like time, where you feel amazing, because you said it. It's out there. It's that people heard it. It's out in the world, and then people open up their mouths, and it gets a lot worse. But in that just like split second where you're just, nothing has affected you yet, it's just this best feeling of just pure bliss. Yeah. In my experience, at least, because just like, here you are, world. Do with it what you please.
And then
that's
comes
me.
the reaction.
And then comes the reactions, which we covered, which suck, and it's not good.
Yeah. But also, I mean, that sort of getting it off your chest is great, and even though their initial reactions might not be what you expected or might not be great, that doesn't mean your chances at being accepted in your family or wherever it is are ruined. And a lot of people are just uneducated, or they speak really quickly because they're shocked, or they say something they don't mean,
and they just
or
don't talk.
They don't understand what you're saying. So a lot of the time, it's just really important to make sure you're giving people resources, and it's not your job to educate them, but they might come to you with questions anyway, and it's good for allies too, to make sure just that you're educated and that you understand and do research if someone comes out to you, because that definitely helps to be more accepting. So.
And yeah, what you said about it's not your job to educate them, I was at a family dinner, so many family dinners in this episode. I was at a family dinner, and we got on the topic of sexualities and all of that, and then people were just coming at me with 1,000 questions and so much, and they just expected me to know everything. And I'm like, guys, I've been a part of the GSA for like a few months. I don't know everything. And it was just so many questions, and they weren't even like posed nicely. Like, if you say the questions nicely, it's not as bad. But in my household, questions are asked through screaming and very loudly and not the best way. So it's just this overwhelming feeling, and like, it's not your like you said about being labeled. In that moment I was labeled as the queer kid. I was the one who was supposed to know everything. I don't know anything. I know very little about this community, and like, if I said something wrong, that could change their whole outlook on it, and it's just terrifying. But people didn't get that you can find better resources than just a 13-year-old kid. And it's like, it's not my job as the one queer kid in our family to explain to you everything, because I don't know everything.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to like rush us along, but we need to cover some more things just really quickly, and we can always come back if we have time. So, Oliver, if you're cool, like, do you want to give us just a little bit about the Trevor Project?
Right, yes. So, I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about the project, but we'll probably go into detail about that another time. We're hoping to have like a suicide-specific episode later, but we just wanted to read off a few phone numbers for you, so that if you're questioning your sexuality or have questions about your gender, just anything like that, there's a number you can text with questions and just any problem you might be having. This is not like an emergency number, the one I'm reading, so if you're having an emergency, this isn't the one to text. But the text line is 724-888-7277. And Steve has the other one.
Yes, and if for immediate help, I'm pretty sure this is the line you can call. It's 866-488-7386. and I think we'll have that number.
That is the
somewhere.
suicide prevention one?
No, that's not the national hotline. The national hotline is 1-800-273-8255. And suicide can't be an option. We just can't have that.
It shouldn't be so common. It's
Can't.
so common.
It's just, this number is like life-saving. So even if you're just hearing about someone who's having issues or contemplating, call. It's there for a reason. So not going to get into a huge discussion, but just that's important.
Yeah, it doesn't also have to be if you're contemplating suicide. It can be if someone you know is contemplating suicide.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Yep.
And also, just a small thing here about that. If you are feeling depressed or like you don't want to live anymore, I've dealt with things like that where I just felt like, oh, I'm just being dramatic. I'll get over it. I'm just being a teenager. Don't feel like you're being dramatic. Just text the number. There's no judgment there because
It's for you. It's for you to get help.
Yeah.
On, like,
Even if you don't think you need it, but like that thought just crosses your mind, you can still just like shoot someone a text and be like,
It doesn't
hey.
have to be like a
Doesn't have to be like,
situation
oh,
where
I'm
you're.
gonna do it now.
Yeah.
It's just like
You don't
I
have to
might.
be. You don't have to be in a situation like where you don't call until you're very sure you're going to commit suicide. It's something that if you're thinking about it, or if it's something like your friend is thinking about, or just whatever it is, it doesn't have to be like you shouldn't wait to call. So if you're thinking about calling or texting, just do it rather than waiting.
And it's like, don't always wait until the last moment, like they were saying, because sometimes, like, it takes a little bit of time to get relief or help or something. Like, if you're feeling,
not immediate.
if you're worried about your safety, like, call after you like are really having some, like, and you just don't feel like you want to go to anyone. It's just, I mean, do what you need to do.
Except suicide. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
No, bad idea.
Absolutely not. But go to someone if you can before you call, because that's for absolute emergencies. But if you're just feeling down or just feeling like you could, maybe talk to someone first. And if you just need instant relief, that's what the number's for.
And I think we can get more to this about a specific episode. I'm just going to ask them really quick. Nowadays, suicide has become so common that it's glorified. And you will see kids online just being like, oh my god, I'm going to kill myself. And you can't tell if they're being serious or
It
not.
could be a joke.
It could be a joke. Like, I hear kids in class being like, ugh, I want to kill myself. And I'm like, should I be worried? And they're just like, no. And I'm like, then why did you say it?
It's not a funny topic.
And, like, you'll see shows, like, not to bring an example, 13 Reasons Why. They glorified suicide in that. They showed graphic, things of suicide. And they almost, like, literally gave you a step-by-step on how to commit suicide.
not. I mean, it's a good show.
It's a good show, but suicide has become so glorified now
It's
that
just not.
kids see it as something like, oh, yeah, you can do that.
It's basically just giving tips. Like, no, absolutely not.
And you'll find the weirdest things about suicide online, and like the darkest things. And when you see that kind of stuff and you're thinking about committing suicide, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
To get play-by-play or anything about it, you just don't want to. It should. I'm sorry, I can't form words right now.
You're good. Okay, I mean, I think we should save that, because I think that's a great topic for an episode. So I think the plan is for in 2 months. It'll probably be
Keep an eye
coming
out.
at you. But I think what we should kind of try and fit a little bit about now is kind of mixed kind of topic, but like reactions to coming out and it's just a phase issue.
Ooh, that's a fun sentence.
Yep.
I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. I feel like any queer person has once in their life heard some version of that. It may not be directly, it's just a phase. but it's there.
Yeah, and I think what we should kind of talk about is like, if you like your thoughts on it, and then like other things, like if you have like stories or anything like of either like seeing it but whatever you guys want to do. I just think that might be a good.
Let's start with thoughts on it. So,
Yep.
Oliver, thoughts
Yeah.
on it's just a phase.
So I personally hate that, and I hate when people say that, and I think it's just irrelevant, honestly. I think it doesn't matter whether it's a phase or not, because if it is, parents and friends should be supporting people through their phases. As long as it's not harmful to that person or other people, it doesn't matter if it's a phase or not. So I think that most of the time, kids who are trans or who are queer, when they come out, they mean it, and it's coming out is a big thing, as we talked about before. So you definitely wouldn't come out unless you're almost completely sure. So I think that's not the most sensitive good thing to say when someone comes out to you at all, and that phases, if it is, lead to sort of realization, and it's good to have sort of periods where you're exploring yourself or your identity or different terms or pronouns or whatever it is, and that there are different stages along the way to realizing what labels or what terms or what fits with you best. So.
And then, like I talked about before, how much courage it takes to be coming out, and then to be hit with, it's just a phase, you'll get over it. Yeah, you'll get over it, is almost, like, soul crushing, because, like,
It's rude.
what do you mean it's just a phase? It's so rude.
It's literally not. Also, like, like you may go through like a little like bubble, we'll say, of just being like exploring things.
Experimenting.
If
But that's
someone
okay.
tells
That's
you
fine.
like what their gender is, or like if they're telling you something brand new information, like just don't. Just don't.
Yeah, someone comes out to you, someone says the pronouns they want, someone says the sexuality they want, you respect that crap. It doesn't matter if it's a phase. You respect what they said about their self and their identity, because nobody knows your own identity better than you. So who are you to tell me it's just a phase?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe it is, and that's fine. It's okay for it just to be a phase. But it doesn't matter if it's a phase. If I come out to you, respect it and respect me.
Yeah, I think people also ask kids to be sure and ask kids to pick labels.
No kid is sure.
Or just people in general, regardless of age. And I've been asked several times, do you think this is permanent? Which is something that I think is kind of a stupid question to ask, honestly, because I don't think, I have to admit that I don't know if, what's permanent and what's not. I thought I was female for, like more than a decade, and that wasn't permanent, even though I thought it was.
But everyone else accepted that as permanent.
Exactly. So I don't think it's good to assume that something's permanent, but it's not good to assume that it's a phase either. I think you should just be open to anything and
be
open
ready
to people
and
changing their
respect
minds.
it.
Yeah, and I think if I'm sure, then you should be sure, and that goes for everything. And if I'm not sure, then respect that and just support people whether they're sure or not.
Yeah, you were talking about, like, is this permanent or are you sure? I wasn't sure when I came out as bisexual. I was wrong. I use different terminology now. No, I wasn't sure. No, I might not ever be sure.
That's fine.
That does not matter. If I say I come out to you as bisexual one day, the next day I say, no, actually I think I'm pansexual. The next day, no, I'm just queer. It doesn't matter if it's flip-flopping all over the place. That happens.
It's just how you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and like you can change the terminology you use.
Yeah,
Because like you might one day find something that fits you better than what you were previously using. And some people take that, like, when I figured out that I was queer, I didn't want to say it because I thought people would think I was lying and that I'm doing self for attention. But it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to change terminology.
Yeah,
Like-
it shouldn't be such a big deal when someone isn't sure. And if someone comes out to you and then, however much time later comes out to you as something different, don't use that as an excuse to say something like, see, it is just a phase, or you are just, you're never sure of anything, stuff like that. That's not a fair thing to say, and it puts us in a position when you're asking if something's permanent that is kind of vulnerable. If someone asks me, is this permanent or are you sure, and I say no, they're not going to respect my pronouns or my identity. And if I say that I am sure and then later I tell them I'm not, or that I'm using a different term, they're going to be confused. So I think it's just good to accept that things come in stages and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and one thing that I do kind of find almost funny in a sense is that when I was straight, people accepted that immediately. They were like, oh yeah, she's straight, she's sure, she's positive that she's straight.
It's just social norms.
Yeah, it's like
Heteronormative.
that bugs me because
Yes.
straight and cis are the default. When in reality, personally, I think everyone when they're born pansexual, then you come out as the specific genders you like. So that straight isn't the norm anymore. It's anything is the norm. Just queer is the norm. And then from there you could say, Mom, I'm only attracted to females. Mom, I'm only attracted to males. And just that way it wouldn't be such, like everyone would have to go through the coming out thing, which I think would be good because then everyone would get an understanding of it.
Yeah. It's just like the expectation when you're born. It should be like,
Yeah.
okay, you figure it out for yourself. Like, we're not going to talk to you about it, not going to influence your decisions.
Force anything down your throat.
Figure it out. Like, deal with it. Just
Just go over there and deal with it.
You're two. You can do it. Good
You
job.
too. You can know what attraction is.
Just go play with the other little kids and figure yourself out.
Go eat the dirt. It's okay.
Okay.
It builds your immune system. It builds your immune
Okay.
system.
Yeah,
What happened to
Julia,
me?
I think
I ate dirt with a stick. It was fun.
I somewhat agree with I definitely agree that straight shouldn't be the norm. Straight and cis shouldn't be the norm, but that's just
It's just how it is. Like, I know what I said is never going to happen.
yeah. Yeah, I think
It's kind of idealistic, of course. But
yeah. I'm not when you said like the norm should be pansexual and then you come out
there
as
shouldn't be a norm. Is what
yeah,
should have
I
said.
think they're just it shouldn't be coming out shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't have to come out. You should just be able to live your life without people assuming either way or asking you because it's private information and it's asking a lot for people to share that. And I think that it shouldn't be a big deal. I think my kids should be able to just come up to me and say, hey, I'm using these pronouns now without it being a huge deal. And I'll just say, okay.
How can I help?
I think kids should be able to talk to their parents and just tell them whatever they're feeling without it being coming out.
I think the biggest thing is just tip for parenting right here from a child. Here's how you parent. Oh God, what was I gonna say? Make it easy for your kids to talk to you.
Just listen.
Just
You don't have to say
listen.
anything.
You don't just shut up, let them talk. Cause I think a lot of kids find it really hard to talk about their parents about anything. Like the sex talk, people find it hard to talk about that. That shouldn't be a hard thing to talk about. Coming out shouldn't be a hard thing to talk about. Sexuality shouldn't be a hard thing to talk about, especially with your parents, someone who is so close to you. You should be able to tell them everything and anything, hopefully. You should be able to discuss anything with your parents because they have the closest blood relationship to you that anyone will have.
Yeah, that's
Except for if your child,
that's
I don't know.
definitely a good
Just
tip.
let your kids talk
I
to
feel
you.
strange giving tips to parents because I'm 13.
We're all like 13-year-olds, like,
But-
here's how you
But
parent.
at the same time, it's also just about being an ally, and I think it's okay. I don't want to run parents' lives, but I do think it's okay for kids to be telling their parents how to have a better relationship because it should be something where you give each other feedback and say, hey, I think we need to talk about this more. And it's great to be open, but also kids should have a right to their privacy. Like Steve, you were saying, people asked you whether you were queer, which is
Probably
something
not the
They
that
best
were cool.
approach.
They
Yeah.
were just
Yeah.
like straight out with it. They were
But
just like
that's-
kind of hinting at it, but like
So,
we're
like,
being
are
rude.
you gay?
Yeah, I think- yeah.
I feel like I also feel like with my coming out experience, how I just relate it back to you guys. I might have made it dramatic. Because, like, I didn't know from my parents' perspective, they might be like, oh, yeah, she came out. And then to me, it's, like, soul-crushing. And it just, I'm probably being insanely dramatic right now, but that's how it feels. In the moment, it feels like,
Feels
oh,
like
Lord,
a big
what
thing.
did I do?
It's like you almost just want it, like, you're, like, confident going into it. Then you're just like,
Deflated.
oh.
It's like a balloon fizzling out.
Yeah, it's just not, it's like roller coaster of emotions.
This is what a roller coaster
Yeah,
looks
it
like.
is. Yep, yeah, it's totally what it looks
That
like.
looks like an octopus, but
Oh,
okay.
okay, that works too.
An octopus of emotions. There you go.
So many levels.
So many tentacles.
Okay, and we're moving. I mean, we can talk about octopies.
I mean, I'm down, honestly.
Gay octopus. Octopi.
Is that a thing? I mean, probably.
Okay. Pull
We're getting off
ourselves together
topic.
here.
We've digressed a lot.
So, we talked slightly about tips for allies and coming out.
Yeah, I think
I know.
I'm just saying, like,
I think maybe we should cover just a few of our like personal tips for allies,
And then-
just in the topic of like coming out,
And
because
then-
there's a lot of
yeah.
things that allies should know from us, and maybe we'll
And then
just cover part of it.
And then I think to end the episode, we can just go with our takeaways on what we have, like our main statements, takeaways. So, personal tips for you.
I would say just make sure that you have, or that you try to have as positive a reaction as possible, and make sure to praise the person and tell them like how much courage it does take for them to come out. Even if you're not sure exactly what that means, or you need to ask them later, hey, what does that actually mean to be pansexual? You know, it's still,
Back to the kitchenware.
it's still,
Yep.
it's still something.
Or goats.
It's the question I got asked.
Yeah, I think it's,
Attracted to goats.
Are you attracted to goats? That's what I got.
yeah.
When
You
I
still
told
need
them I
to,
was pansexual, they were like, so you attracted to goats?
Anyways.
What?
Seem to
Anyways.
like animals. This
yeah, you
episode.
still need to be like supportive and just friendly, kind to the person, whether or not you have a different thing to say later, because initial reactions are very important, and it gives people a lot of confidence if you react positively, and it's okay to ask questions later. But that's one big tip. I think also just don't bring up that it's just a phase topic in any way.
Just don't say it in any sense. But even like,
Just be cautious
Yeah,
of it.
Because
Just
as we
like, yeah.
discussed, like it doesn't matter, and that's just an irrelevant point that you don't need to make. So yeah, just be kind and supportive, and don't bring up that it's just a phase thing.
yeah.
Agreed.
So, tip for me, I guess, is, at least in my personal experience, you can ask questions as long as you ask them in a respectful and kind manner. Like, don't drown them in questions about their sexuality, because you don't know. I didn't know how to answer it. Like, especially with sexuality or gender, you don't know. You don't know anything of it. Like, teenager dumb is the part where you just don't know anything.
You don't ask questions. Just don't.
Well, you can ask questions.
Yeah,
just be kind about
thoughtful.
it, and know that they might not have an answer yet. Your turn.
Be patient.
Be patient. That's a good one.
Yeah, patience is key in these situations.
Something I don't have.
I mean, sometimes. Questionable.
Thanks.
No, sorry. I think like just if you have any things that you think like may come off badly or like affect the person in some way, just
Don't say
save
it.
questions until a separate time when things aren't heated and frazzled and
When you're hyped up on adrenaline.
like just wait to ask those questions. Like they may or may not have an answer. Just be ready for whatever may come at you. Just like be aware of like like you guys have said, like how hard it is and how like difficult it is to like work yourself up to that stuff. And like just be cautious of like how it could bring someone down, even if you ask like a question that's not intended to be bad. Just think about timing. Again, here comes timing, but like it's important.
Okay, so to end off the episode, why don't we do final statements and takeaways? And start back of the line. Oliver.
Okay. I think probably one of my biggest takeaways is just to be like aware of other people's feelings as an ally, and that when you're coming out,
still be
yeah,
aware.
yeah, when you're coming out, it's good to be aware of other people's feelings, but mainly just as an ally, be aware what it's like to come out, even if you don't fully understand. So react well, be positive and supportive, and don't like belittle people by telling them it's just a phase or you're too young or anything like that. So I think that's my takeaway.
My takeaway would just be something that actually I said. Respect people. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what's going on. Respect them, respect their opinions, and they'll respect you. Hopefully.
Just be cautious and plan out your stuff. What you're going to say, when you're going to do it, it's all about the plans. And, yeah, is there anything else?
No.
There's one announcement
Okay.
about
Shoot,
there's I don't know if this episode will come out in time for this to be effective, but there is a youth march on Saturday the 24th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the State House. So LGBTQ plus, ally, whoever you are, just show up and give some support.
Thank you so much for watching. This has been All Things LGBTQ+,
Youth Edition.
and we'll see you next month.